Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Women's Maximum Fitness podcast. Today is Monday, December 21st, and I'm very excited to share the story of IFBB figure pro Tara Ramos. Tara is a good friend of mine who I met through Isolator Fitness working at the Arnold. We worked a couple of Arnold's Olympias and several expos throughout 2014 and 2015. And I actually had the privilege of watching her turn pro. But this interview is more about her story after the stage, and it is about her living through cancer. I think it's really important, and I want to use her words, how during the 2 years that she went through cancer treatment, several surgeries, biopsies, chemo, radiation, and everything, what she focused on was living. Her social media was not flooded with her in hospital beds, tubes up her nose. She has an incredible badass scar down her throat. She had half of her tongue removed. Several things that she went through, but what she chose to focus on was her life and living. And she posted about learning yoga, taking better care of herself, even though she was already very involved in being a healthy person, and just sharing things with her family. Her husband is a firefighter. Her kids are very involved in sports, and just focus on life, on living, and the treatments and everything that went along with the struggle of cancer were tasks, and she would do those, and then she would go back to living her life. And I think it's a really important message that whatever your struggle is, if you focus on that, that will be your life. If you focus on your life, that will be your life. So this is about living through cancer, the story of Tara Ramos, and I'm just thrilled to be able to share this with you. In this particular, time in everyone's lives, I think it's really important to focus on the individual person and know that everyone has a story, maybe not as incredible as Tara's story, but still, the world is full of fighters. The world is full of very strong women, and I want their stories to be told. So without further ado, here is my interview with IFBB pro Tara Ramos. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Women's Maximum Fitness podcast. Today is Monday, December 21st, and I'm super excited to have a longtime friend and IFBB pro figure competitor, Tara Ramos, here with me today. Tara has an amazing story of beating cancer, and that's honestly the main reason why I wanted to have her on. I know her from we worked together through Isolator Fitness. But I want her to share her story. It's super inspiring. She's a very inspiring person, a mom of two, a wife, just handling everything that life throws at her. And, Tara, I'm almost tearing up because I haven't seen you in years, but think about you all the time, and I've been following what you've been going through, and it's just incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited. I know we used to talk all the time. We were always at all the shows together, but no, I'm so happy that we've stayed connected, and yeah. I'm so honored that you asked me to do this. So thank you so much.
You have a story that people need to hear. So,
sure.
So I'm just glad to have you on. So let's talk a little bit about your athletic background, and we'll talk about how you got into competing in the first place.
Okay, so both of my parents are really into bodybuilding. So from a very young age, my dad had an entire gym in our garage. So from the moment I could walk and talk, I saw my parents working out. I mean, we literally had everything from dumbbells to Smith machines, literally we had everything. So I watched my parents work out every single day, and we were brought up extremely healthy. There was no fast food, no soda. My mom made every single meal. We were taught nutrition from a very young age. So I was just brought up in that kind of household. I tell my parents now, I'm so thankful for them, because now I'm trying to do the same thing for my kids, like, train them to do the same sort of, diet and working out. Right. So, so I was a gymnast. So I did gymnastics, oh my gosh, probably from the time I was like 3 or 4, probably till about middle school. And then I'm very tall. And so gymnasts aren't normally tall. So I moved on to cheerleading, and I did competitive cheerleading all the way through high school. But my parents hired me a personal trainer when I was probably, oh gosh, maybe 8th grade, because I was so fascinated by watching my parents work out. I loved being fit and healthy. And so I just wanted to know more. And so they felt like they taught me everything they could, but they wanted me to really learn from somebody. So they hired me a personal trainer, and she taught me everything. She taught me how to train properly. She taught me how to eat properly, besides what my parents had already taught me, right? Like, she taught me all about macros. And I mean, like I said, I was probably like 13 or 14, and I learned all of that, and I became so fascinated. And it actually made me decide to like go into the health field, when I graduated college. So I was going to be a nutritionist, but I ended up becoming a registered nurse. But it was all based on my childhood being so fascinated behind the science in the body, right? So that's how I grew up. And I thank my parents, because it's all because of them. But, my dad used to subscribe to Muscle and Fitness, and I would sit there as a teenager every day, and I would flip through the pages of Muscle and Fitness. And so I idolized all of the bodybuilders, all of the IFBB pros, and I wanted to do that when I grew up. And I even, I remember I sent in my picture when I was in high school, because they had this like college edition that they would do every year. And even though I was only in high school, I was taking college courses. So I'm like, I'm going to send my picture into Muscle and Fitness. And I got in, and my picture was in Muscle and Fitness. Yeah, that was like my claim to fame. I was so excited. But yeah, I was just hooked from a very young age. I wanted to do what they were doing. So that's how it all started.
And it makes a lot of sense. You had a good base, where a lot of times people get, they start off with maybe a coach who doesn't really know what they're doing, but you had somebody that was absolutely legit. So, so you had a pretty smooth ride. Yeah.
I had a hint of anorexia that kind of got into that mix. I just became a little bit too conscious of everything. So I did have a couple years of, just being a little bit too small for what I was, but I wanted to be shredded, right? So like I was super tiny. And so I will say I had a little bit of like obsessive compulsive about what I was eating. And, my parents walked me through it. And so I was able to come out of that. But I will say it wasn't perfect. It wasn't totally smooth sailing, but thankfully we were able to kind of get through that. So
I feel like it takes that kind of mentality for someone to, usually to turn pro is to have that sort of towing the line, that borderline, attention to detail. And it's kind of nice because, like we were talking before we started recording, it carries into the rest of your life. So I'm sure you are very organized, never late.
No, never late. You are so right.
All those things, very type A. Are you the oldest of your siblings?
No, I'm actually the youngest. So yeah. But yeah, no, I'm like, you hit it on the nail, like all of the things, all of the type A, have to be organized, have to be early. If I'm on time, I'm late. So yeah.
But it's working for you, right? So let's talk about how long were you competing? When did you first compete? And then how long it took you? I was there when you turned to pro, which is like super.
So crazy. Okay. So, obviously I grew up being very fit. I was fit throughout both of my pregnancies. But after my daughter was born in 2012, like she's my second child, everybody said to me, oh, there is no way you are ever going to be as fit as you were before you had kids. And I remember this one specific woman in the gym saying that to me, and it was like, oh no, game on. And so that's how it all started. And I said to my husband, I want to compete. Like I want to do what I always wanted to do when I was younger, right? But just because I've had kids doesn't mean I can't do it. So he found me a trainer, and he was phenomenal. It was a husband and wife, and they took me under their wing. Literally, my daughter was 6 months old, and I started training for my first NPC show. And that was 2012. I started in bikini, but because I had been a gymnast, you know, when I was younger, I always had these quads. And so I did my first bikini show that was local in Jacksonville, and I took first place, and it was like, I had the bug. And then I think I did 2 more bikini shows after that. And they finally were like, listen, like, you have the body for figure, like, let's just go for it. And so in that same year, I mean, you know me, I never cheated on my diet. I was a perfectionist. So literally in the same year, I went from bikini to figure, like within just a few months. So because I had already had that base built with the muscle, we just built on that. And so the rest of 2012, I think I ended up doing 2 figure shows. I even went to nationals that year. Like, it was just such a crazy year. It was my first year ever competing, and I went from bikini, switched to figure, and then I ended up going to nationals at the end of that 2012. And I didn't place well. You know, my upper body wasn't big enough, but it definitely gave me the motivation to keep going. And so we hit it really hard that winter. And in 2013, I think it was, I'm losing track of time. No, maybe I might be messing up my years. It was 2013 that I started competing, not 2012. I'm sorry. So by the time 2014 rolled around, I went to Junior USA, and I was in first call outs. I looked the best I'd ever looked, and it ended up coming in second place. And we were like, okay, we know what we need to fix. Let's just go for this. I ended up going to junior nationals a couple weeks later, and I took first, and that's how it all started.
Yep. And that was really fun because we ended up rooming together, you and me and your husband.
Yep.
It was great. I just, it was like, I don't know, I wasn't super focused on me. It was just really fun watching like what you were going through. And then I ended up seeing you get your pro card, which was, I mean, it was amazing to actually, it's almost like, you know, when pros have someone with a videographer going through it all, except it was just in my head, being able to see all the steps that were going on for you to, you know, gave me an idea of what a good coaching and client relationship was like. I mean, your coach checked in with you, you know, every hour or so. You sent pictures every, you know, hour and a half to 3 hours before you had a meal.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these things these are all things that people should have with a coach if they're, you know, when they're working with somebody during, you know, during show days. You should be checking in with them every hour or so. So
yeah, if he could not be there backstage, which he couldn't for every show that was out of state, right? He was every hour on the spot, send me pictures, you know, like I was taken so, you know, well care of during all of that. So I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it was a great experience. That was in June of 2014.
Yep.
So then what happened after that?
So after that, we took a couple months just to kind of continue building. And like I said, I've always had just a super lean frame. So we just try to continue, just, you know, give me a little bit more roundness in my upper body. And I remember I wanted to do the Tampa Pro so bad. And he was like, no, it's too soon. Like, we need to keep training. So I waited until later in the fall of 2014. I went to the Kentucky Pro, my first pro show, and I got 5th place. And it was just like, oh my goodness, like, I am standing up here with my idols. Like, how did this even happen? But like, I was just on cloud 9. Like, I could not believe it. And so we were like, you know what, we're going to jump into another one. And literally a week later. Now, mind you, I've got like a 1-year-old at home and a 3-year-old at home. So like, it wasn't all just competing. I was working full time as an RN, 2 little kids under the age of 3, and doing all this at the same time. But I ended up going to the Felicia Romero Pro, and I placed 5th there as well. So it was just like such an amazing start to something I just really never imagined. I mean, it was on my bucket list, right? Like, so it was pretty amazing. And I took some time off. I ended up going with another coach the following year. He was wonderful. He trained me through several shows, but I just could not put the size on like everybody else. You know, I'm 5'9". I have a very long, lean body, and I just could not put that size on. And I'm sure I could over time, but at the same time, I started realizing I've accomplished what I set out to do. And I want to love my body for what it is. And I don't want to have this body that I'm working towards just for the judges.
Right.
Right. So I had to come to that realization that like, I am not 100% in love with this body they want me to have. I love the process. I love the science. I love being an experiment, but I don't love my body being what others want it to be. Right. And that's hard. I mean, coming from such a type A personality, wanting to be this perfectionist and do what other people want me to do. But at the end of, I guess that was 2015, I finally was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I want to love my body as it is and not what someone else wants it to be. So that's kind of how things ended. And we sat on it for a little while, you know, maybe I'll change my mind, but my kids were getting older and they were still young, but they were growing and I just didn't want to miss out on anything. You know, I was waking up at like 3 a.m. to get my workout in before I would head off to the hospital for a 12-hour shift. I would get home from that 12-hour shift, say hi to the kids, put them to bed and head back to the gym. And it was just like, all the things weren't adding up anymore. And that's kind of how I just kind of walked away from it all, honestly.
I feel like this is really smart to find your endpoint with bodybuilding, because a lot of people will ride it out until, you know, they're injured or they, you know, just keep dropping further and further in their placings or whatever it is. And it sounds like you really came out on a high note, you know, because it was your choice. And I think it's really important to understand, what your line is of what you're willing to do, if you're, you know, because you're whatever it takes to have a good outcome versus whatever it takes to satisfy what the judges want. It's two different things, you know. I go the same thing with women's physique. You know, people ask me all the time if I'm going to compete again, and maybe in a couple of years after Anna's, you know, out of the house, because I just really want to savor these last couple of years. But, you know, when women's physique first came out, they were small, you know what I mean? They were small and didn't have the conditioning that they do now. So, and for me, it's just like, not only am I, you know, I'll admit I'm not willing to do what it takes. I don't think I can. Like, I just don't think I have it in me to do that, because too much other things, I think, knowing myself, would get sacrificed in order for me to push myself that way. So, you know, but all the, you know, I mean, I watched the Olympia this weekend, all the kudos in the world. It was super inspiring. It was really fun to watch. And I admire and respect all the athletes. They're incredible. But
and when you sit back and realize too, that most of them are parents, most of them are working full-time jobs. And it's true. I mean, it's definitely sacrificing the hours in your day. We all need more than 24 hours to do it all, right? It's definitely not easy. So they are amazing for sure.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. When it comes down to it, I mean, it's not like their lives are that much different, that like things aren't getting, you know, sacrificed or whatever. But I mean, people are like you, maybe better at handling time than I am.
No, I like you, my kids are 8 and almost 11 now. My little guy will be 11 in a couple of weeks, but you know, they play travel sports and that is my focus. I did what was fun for me, but now they're older and I want to push them and help them get to their goals. You know what I mean? So the goals have switched. Now I spend half my day in the car and at practice. And that, I mean, if I was competing, I would never be able to do that, you know? And so I'm ready to help them, you know, support them, do what they want. And so, you know, times change and you got to help your kids meet their goals too. Right. So.
Well, and that's kind of what your parents did too. They were able to keep themselves in shape, but also provide that base for you. Yeah. And it's not like you do a lot of stuff for yourself too, right? Now you do yoga. And so what are some of the things that you have kind of replaced, you know, or added into the mix for your health and fitness? What is that?
Okay, so I stopped competing, you know, like end of 2015 going into 2016. And I did have a little bit of a rough time, you know, like just kind of going from like this 7 meals a day to like, well, gosh, how does a normal person eat now? I don't even know, right? And I ended up going and getting tested for the BRCA2 mutation. So a little bit crazy background, but my mom's side of the family has had a lot of breast cancer. And so in 2017, her third sister ended up getting diagnosed with breast cancer. And I remember saying to my mom, like, Mom, like we need to do something here. Like something's going on in your family and we've just kind of been brushing it under the rug. I think we need to go get tested for this gene. And so in 2017, I went and got tested for this genetic mutation. I ended up carrying it. If you're not familiar with the BRCA2 mutation, it's a predisposition to breast cancer, ovarian cancer, melanoma, and pancreatic cancer. And I was like, everything's got to change. I've got to stop eating so much, protein. Like I was eating, not protein, but meat, right? Like I was eating so much chicken and turkey and all these things. And I was like, I've got to change my diet. I've got to change my lifestyle a little bit because I was so focused on always eating so much chicken and things like that. Right. So I wanted to go a little bit more plant-based. And so, in 2017, I started switching to a more vegetarian plant-based diet. I ended up having a preventative double mastectomy. Talk about like changing my body, right? Like I had this double mastectomy in 2017. I try to spread a lot of awareness on social media about it because, here I am, I'm a young mom in my 30s, and I felt like I was kind of given like a telescope into my future. Like I could kind of see the writing on the wall. My mom's had 3 sisters with breast cancer. Like I've got to do something. I'm so fit and healthy. I cannot be taken down by this. So I had the mastectomy. 2018, I had the reconstruction. I was at the time really not lifting heavy. I was really focused on yoga. I needed something to like train my mind again to stay focused and not be like succumb to all the anxiety going around this. And so 2018, I had the reconstruction, and in the middle of 2018, I started having incredible pain in my mouth. And it's like, okay, I'm a nurse background. I know my body's inside and out, right? Like just through all the competing, like I just know everything so well. And I remember going to my doctor being like, I'm having all this pain in my mouth. I've got a sore throat. I've got this ear pain. And they're just like, oh, it's a little tooth infection. And it's no big deal. Take these antibiotics. And so I take these antibiotics and it doesn't go away. It feels like it's getting worse. And you can't see anything on the inside of my mouth. I don't have swollen lymph nodes or anything. And so I went back and forth for 4 months to my dentist, to my doctor, to an endodontist, to all these people. So the end of 2018, I was diagnosed with malignant tongue cancer. It sounds so strange to say because I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. I've been eating this healthy diet my whole life. I've always worked out. Like my parents raised me just like I said, like so whole and so natural. So things really shifted quickly for us. Like everything changed. I went to like 100% organic and I started juicing every day. Like I literally had to do whatever it took to make sure that I built my immune system to a certain point and that I could help my body begin the stages of sustaining its health, knowing I was going through I'm just going to start treatment for stuff. So I ended up having several surgeries. They did what they call a partial glossectomy, where they literally removed like more than half my tongue. And it sounds so bizarre. Like it sounds creepy, I know, but they told me it was a muscle and that it would grow back. I was like, okay. So I went through a lot of speech therapy. I had to learn how to swallow again. I had to learn how to chew again. I had to learn how to talk again. They removed all the lymph nodes in my neck, under my ear. So I went through a lot, but I worked out through the entire thing. And I, just keeping your body moving through cancer treatment became just so important. And it became my job to talk to the other patients and like tell them how I was doing it. So I went through like 6 weeks of radiation, of like from my cheekbones all the way down to my collarbones, had the entire inside of my mouth and throat burned to a crisp. They told me that I would probably not be able to swallow throughout the whole thing, and that like I was going to need a feeding tube, and that it was just going to be like, I was going to be miserable is what they kept telling me. And that competitive side of me came out again. And I went through the whole thing, chewing and swallowing and like fighting through it. I never ended up getting a feeding tube. Like I said, I went plant-based. So I just made sure I kept getting enough protein and macros through, you know, plant-based foods. I did yoga every single day. And I just kept going. And then, gosh, I'm losing track of time. I guess late 2019, I want to say, I had a follow-up PET scan and they found it in my lung. So I just went through all these surgeries, all this radiation. I thought I was back to normal. Haley. Sorry.
Okay.
And I ended up having lung surgery at like end of 2019 and to find that it metastasized. And so then I went through like really, really harsh chemo. Lost all my hair, you know, like looked like a totally different person. But again, I worked out through the entire thing. I did whatever I could to take all my vitamins. I never let go of that competitor's mindset, like taking all my supplements, making sure I got my nutrition in. And I actually finished a year ago last week. So it's been a year so far. All my scans have been clear, but I'm just, the movement of your body, like keeping going, making sure that you're eating right and that like healthy mindset, like just that it's going to be okay. Like no matter what roadblock is put in front of you, like you just have to think around it and how to get over it. So I don't know, like it's been a crazy couple of years since I did stop competing. But again, I do like credit all of that mindset stuff to when I was competing. And it's just unbelievable how it kind of comes back full circle to help you get through things in your life that you just never imagined would happen.
Yeah, a challenge that you wanted to do and you chose to do gave you the tenacity to push through a challenge that was handed to you that you didn't ask for.
Yeah.
Here you are and you're alive. You know? So, so you said that you're having regular scans. Yeah. So how long will that go on?
I'm on a pretty tight leash. Let's just say that. So probably for the next couple years, probably at least for the first 5 years, I'll be going very often, which I love because I want to know everything. Like I know you and I were talking before, we always want to know all our blood work and I want to know everything. And you know, unfortunately, I have, for the most part, avoided a lot of the long-term side effects based on just continuing to exercise and eat right and things like that. But then there's some things that are out of my control. My thyroid has shut down because of radiation. It kills your thyroid. So I'll be on lifelong, you know, thyroid support and things like that, you know, one wouldn't really want to do. But in this case, I don't have a choice. But continuing to eat right and work out and all those things, get on a right sleep schedule, I'm going to be able to help myself, you know, avoid it to continue plateauing and getting worse. So, you know, those are a few things that I can't control, but I'm trying to do what I can to support that, you know. But for the most part, I mean, I feel like I'm 100% back to who I was. And like I said, I worked out through the whole thing. I still work out every single day today. You know, and I'm 100% plant-based now. Like I don't eat any meat or anything, which is so different from my bodybuilding diet. But I still, I mean, I know it sounds crazy and people are like, that's unhealthy, but I still drink like 2 gallons of water a day. You know, I supplement with salt so that I don't like throw my body out of whack. But you know, when you go through head and neck radiation, it kills all of the moisture and like hydration in your mouth. You have no saliva production, which sounds creepy and gross. But that's what happens. So, you know, being in bodybuilding, always drinking water, like that has stuck to it. Like I always have, you see me drinking throughout this whole thing. I've always got water in my hand. I'm always drinking water and, you know, I just do whatever I can to like make sure that I stay healthy and that this never comes back again, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was going to ask you, I know when you first came, you were talking about this, I saw on Facebook posts, someone had talked about your classmates and I wanted to talk about that because I just thought it was it's sort of like a mystery, kind of a little interesting. So you are not the only one in your high school who has gotten cancer, right?
Right. So I grew up close to Patrick Air Force Base in Satellite Beach, and you know, when I was really young, my parents actually had caught wind of a lymphoma cluster going on in our neighborhood. And so they sold that house super quick. I think I was in second grade, and they moved probably about, I don't know, less than 10 miles down the road south. And we got away from that. And I went to Satellite High School, like, just lived this amazing life in this small beach town. But now in my 30s, I have not been the only one that's been diagnosed with very strange cancer. Unfortunately, hold on, Haley, stop. I'm so sorry. Trying to play with toys.
It picks up noise. Yeah.
But so several of my classmates, like more so a lot of the athletes that I grew up with, the ones that I ran track with, the ones that I cheered with, we've all been diagnosed with cancer. And so there's big studies going on. Even Aaron Brockovich has come down to our little beach town to try to help us fight to find answers to this, but it's been kind of leaked out that they were putting firefighting chemicals from the Air Force Base into the waterways. We kind of, there's a lot of different theories, but a lot of us athletes were drinking from the water fountains at high school, at practice and things like that. And so we're thinking it has, something to do with that. Like I said, I mean, I carry that BRCA gene, but the cancer I was diagnosed with has nothing to do with that. And like, I've never smoked a cigarette my whole life, not even one, but yet I got diagnosed with oral cancer, so just really bizarre.
Someone had posted in that thread the article, and I went to read because I think you're one of 19 or 20 students in your small high school that have been diagnosed, and all various types of cancer too. It's not it's not like one kind across the board. So
no.
It's bizarre. We just don't know, it's like you can do everything right, but you can't always control, your extended environment. So
no, I think too, I mean, there's a few lessons. One is know your body so well, and, check inside your mouth. I tell people this, the women that I have met with this exact same cancer have all been in their 30s. None of us have ever smoked, all super healthy. And yet we all got diagnosed with this very strange cancer. And so I tell people now, like, I know it sounds weird, but check inside your mouth for things. Like, make sure you don't see anything unusual, white spots, little, like sores inside your mouth. Like, I know it sounds crazy, and it's like, but like, you don't have any predisposition to it. I didn't either. Check inside your mouth, check your body, like know what's normal and what's not, because even though mine did end up spreading to my lung, I still feel like I was so lucky that I finally got someone to listen to me, and then I didn't give up because I knew something was wrong. And for 4 months, I kept going back and forth to my doctor to saying something doesn't feel right. Like, I don't feel like myself. I was losing weight so rapidly. Like, my tight workout pants became like loose sweatpants on me. That's not normal. Yeah. But they kept brushing me under the rug, like there's nothing wrong with you. So I try to tell people now, like, you have to be your own advocate. You have to continue to push for answers if you don't feel like something's right. And it's so important, Yep.
I'm going to pause 1 second here. All right. So we had to take a little break there, but we're back. And so no big deal. So Tara, you were saying how important it is to, we're saying having this healthy base, because if you were somebody who had not been living this healthy lifestyle and then got diagnosed with cancer, I mean, not only like, having the healthy background where you were, having the, doing competitions, that teaching you about overcoming struggle, and then, all the things that you were doing while you were getting your cancer treatments, continuing with movement and yoga, your regular exercise,
right.
Who knows what the outcome would have been. So you are just the epitome of a strong woman. It's just incredible.
Just you.
Yeah. So, and, how are things with your family going through all of this?
They were so amazing. I think for me, the whole time I was worried about them, right? I mean, I know it sounds morbid, but of course, hearing that like you have stage 4 cancer, it just makes you think, oh my gosh, like how are they emotionally going to be when I'm not around? Like your mind goes to that place really quickly. But I had to shift that really fast, and they became my rocks. They became my motivation. They became everything that got me up every day. They were the reason I was getting up and working out every day, because I'm like, you know what? I have to show them that I'm okay. And so they were the reason that I got up every single day. I put my makeup on, I did my hair. Well, when I had hair, I did my hair. After that, I wore scarves. But they were my motivation. My husband has been like, he did not show a sign of like giving up whatsoever. Like he came to every appointment. He was like my biggest cheerleader. He made sure that I kept my mind in the right place. You know what I mean? And we live in an amazing community. Like I said, my kids are both into sports. And so we've had so many families, offer help and things like that. And, I kept refusing help. No, I don't need help. No, I don't. We got this. Like we got this on our own. But there were so many times that I couldn't refuse because they would just show up, you know what I mean? And they hired a house cleaner to come into my house and clean so that Mike and the kids didn't have to worry, you know what I mean? And, there's just so many people came to help us. My parents, they did whatever they could to make sure we were here. I mean, they were here, helping whatever they could, but I'm so like, no, I got this, that like, I really tried to turn away any help I could. I wanted to show Mike and the kids that like, I'm the same person, even though this is all happening, and, but they were awesome. Like I said, they were my motivation. They were the reason that like, I think I made through everything because like I just didn't want to give up because of them,
Yeah, absolutely. So at some point you had transitioned out of being a full-time nurse, and you do at-home sales.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe. I know you were selling is it I don't know what the makeup brand was originally.
Wow.
But
So
yeah.
honestly, I wanted to get out of nursing after I was done competing, and I knew that it would be really difficult to replace my income. And so what I had started doing was training other women to do what I was doing. Here I was a mom that went pro and with little kids at home. And so that's what I started doing when I left nursing. Was I started a company called Fit Mom Personal Training. And I literally was just taking in women who were moms and training them to eat right, not necessarily to even compete. I just wanted to train other moms to take care of themselves. And so I did that. Honestly, up until I guess 2019, when I was diagnosed, I just couldn't slice myself in that many directions at a certain point with, cancer treatment and such. But I did that as soon as I left nursing, but simultaneously I had started a network marketing company. Yep. And I did that for 5 years. It carried me. It was amazing. It helped me replace my income. But again, when I was going through treatment, just so many things in my life, it was like, you can only juggle so many things, I guess you can say. And so making sure that I was being the best mom and wife that I could be, making sure that I stayed healthy throughout all those treatments, I had to let go of certain things. So I let go of the personal training business, and that network marketing business it wasn't bringing me joy anymore. And I think another thing that I learned through cancer is you have to do what you love every day. And don't waste time on things that aren't making you happy, right? And they're not fulfilling you. And that wasn't fulfilling me. And so I let that go, I guess at the beginning of 2020. And so I actually was just being stay-at-home mom for a little while. I wasn't really doing anything for a couple months. And then some of my good girlfriends brought another opportunity to me to work with like an eco-friendly skincare line. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. Excuse me. Sorry, radiation. So anyway, so I said no. I was like, I just, I'm not into that. I just don't want to do that again. I put so much of my time and effort over the last 5 years building a business. I'm just kind of tired. But then I kept looking into this company, and it aligned with everything, just being, plant-based and gluten-free and certified animal cruelty-free and just free of all the chemicals and things. And I'm like, man, as much as I don't want to do anything else, this is looking way too good. And so I was like, all right, you know what? Send me some products. Let me just try it out. Of course, I fell in love with everything. And then I was like, all right, well, what do I need to do? I mean, it was totally something I could stand behind. And so I have been with a skincare company since kind of like end of March, beginning of April. And it's been life-changing for my family and myself. So it's been amazing. And so that's what I do now full time. and really, besides just great skincare that's healthy for people, which is huge, obviously, through after everything I've been through. And I want to protect my friends and family. I help other women find their confidence again. And that's really probably the biggest part of why I love doing that, because I'm helping, customers who come through who hate their skin and hate the way they look, and I can help them change their skin and feel confident about themselves. And so for me, that's probably like the biggest thing out of it.
Well, and it's very similar to, bodybuilding as well. A lot of people get into that with, trying to kind of heal and underconfidence. And, as much as we don't like to talk about things as, saying that they're vain, going to the gym is vain, or going, makeup or whatever, it's a vanity. Doing these things and looking good makes you feel good about yourself and makes you confident. And then you are honestly a more productive member of society, because you're not worried about the quote unquote stupid superficial stuff. You feel good about yourself. So I think it's really important. And, all these aspects, the bodybuilding, whatever you find that you love, and if it's a way of helping people, obviously you can see that you're helping people. So that looks like it's never changed, with you working on yourself so that you can be better for other people. It's just, a lot of tenacity there. It's super cool.
Definitely my passion. I mean, besides all that though, and at free of charge, I always ask for people to send cancer patients my way. So that's the other thing that I do, but that's just totally me being voluntary. So I spend a lot of time like on the phone with people just being diagnosed, people going through treatment, survivors. And that's not me working through any organization. That's just me being like, send them my way. So that's the other thing that I do all the time. And I'm trying to be better on social media about sharing those sorts of things. But social media is like a full-time job, right? Like, it's hard to keep up. But I am really trying to put a little bit more of that out there, because I really do like enjoying talking to other patients just about how to like get through everything. That's my biggest passion, I think, right there,
Yeah. And I think that was part of the reason why I wanted you to share your story, just because, it touched me, and I'm not, obviously I'm not a cancer patient or going through anything like that, but people's stories resonate, and they do say, you think I might be going through something, but I'm not going through what that person went through, and she fought through it, so I can get through this.
Absolutely.
So anytime somebody wins, it's a win for other people who can hear or see their story. So
I totally agree.
Yeah, pretty awesome. So the last thing that I wanted to ask you is, so we have a new year coming up. Oh, today is, I do want to ask you about this. Today is the winter solstice. So I'm like excited because the days are going to be getting longer again. How are things in Florida? Are you sunny all the time? Are your days still like, do you have longer days, or has it been cold and shorter days for you guys?
So we actually have shorter days, because in the summer, the sun is up super early. It's out really late, and we love it. Especially because my kids are super sporty. We're always outside. So the days are shorter. It's darker out early, but we have beautiful weather. We actually just got a pool put in. And as cold as the pool has been, my children are nuts, and they're getting every penny worth out of that pool. They've been swimming every day. We've got baseball tournaments throughout the entire winter break, which is just the beauty of Florida, that the kids can do these things year round. So we soak up every minute of the Florida sun.
That's awesome. So any plans for the new year? What do you have? New Year's resolutions? What are your goals for 2020, 2021?
So I don't really make resolutions, but I definitely write down goals. For me, it's just to continue getting further into my yoga journey. I love it. Not that I was forced into it, but it's become something that I never knew I needed, right? Like, it works on the mind, the body, the spirit, it works on everything. And so one of my goals is to become yoga certified so that I can start teaching. So that's something I really want to do, and kind of COVID messed all that up this year. So I couldn't really go to in-person trainings for that, but that is something I really want to do. That carried me through all those treatments, like I mentioned, just because it trains your mind to see things differently. It trains your mind to kind of shut off the world. It trains your mind to do so many things. And I just think so many people can benefit from it, whether you're healthy or sick, recovering, whatever it is. It's just so amazing. And so I definitely want to do that. And just to continue supporting my kids and my husband and what they want to do, right? Like my son, he's going to be 11, and I know it sounds like I'm bragging, but the kid's going to the MLB. Like he's amazing. So my biggest thing is always to be there to make sure that I support them in any way that we can, so that they, she plays tennis, so that we can help them, go as far as they want. So it's all about helping them.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you have your priorities straight, and if you could change it, would you have changed it, that you didn't have to go through all this?
You know what? Oddly enough, no, I don't think so. Yeah, I think, I'm thankful that I made it out on the other side. Let's just say that first of all. But I definitely think, as much as it was a tough lesson for my kids, I actually think it made them stronger too, right? Like they've become even more empathetic and thoughtful and all those things because they saw what mommy went through. And so now they just have these huge hearts. And again, they've always been great kids, but they have these giant hearts now. And they just, I don't know, it's helped them become even better humans, right? So,
right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. They're going to take that into adulthood, for sure. So,
yeah.
Well, Tara, I know that you have to take your daughter to horseback riding lessons that you put off for this so that we could get this done, and I really appreciate it. But it's been awesome catching up with you.
I know, thank you so much. Like I am so honored that you asked me to do this. So thank you.
I'm glad that we have a platform to be able to tell these stories. I always think that if people could understand individual stories of each other, we would have a lot more loving, caring society,
Right. Oh, I so agree. Yeah.
So thanks for coming on and sharing. I know you're busy, but that time management, you're able to squeeze us.
No, I thank you.
Yeah. So, so I'm going to say, just remember that healthy looks different on everybody. And I hope that you have a great day, great Christmas, New Year's, and 2021 can only be better, right?
For sure. Exactly.